Ladies and gentlemen, both our loyal listeners and those joining us for the first time today, imagine this, it's February 2014. The world watches in shock as Russian tanks thunder across the Crimean border. But beneath the surface of this military maneuver, another, quieter war was already raging, one fought not with bullets, but with pipelines. Europe suddenly awoke to a chilling fact: 40% of its lifeblood, the natural gas heating its homes and fueling its industries, flowed through Ukrainian territory, straight from Russian fields. This wasn't just about land, it was about who controlled the invisible veins of energy that kept nations alive. And in that moment, the 21st century's great truth became undeniable: the map of global power is being redrawn, not by armies, but by oil rigs, gas pipelines, and solar farms. Fast forward to today. While Russia was playing chess with gas pipelines, America quietly staged the greatest energy comeback in history. Picture this: a country once begging for OPEC's mercy now pumps more oil than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. The shale revolution didn't just change America's energy balance, it handed Washington a new kind of diplomatic superpower. But here's the twist: just as the US flexes its energy muscles, an even bigger player is moving pieces on the board. China's Belt and Road Initiative isn't just about roads and ports, it's a trillion-dollar quest to lock down every critical energy route from Angola to Kazakhstan. The question isn't who has the most tanks anymore, it's who controls the lithium, the rare earth metals, and the wind farms of tomorrow. Meanwhile, in the scorching deserts of the Middle East, a different race against time is unfolding. Saudi Arabia and the UAE aren't just pumping oil, they're desperately building skyscrapers, AI cities, and space programs. Why? Because they hear the ticking clock of peak oil demand. Their nightmare? A world where renewables make their trillion-dollar reserves worthless. But here's where it gets really interesting: the very climate policies designed to save the planet are triggering the biggest reshuffle of economic power since the Industrial Revolution. The petrostate's dilemma: pivot or perish. Now, hold on, because the most explosive shift isn't happening in war rooms or oil fields. It's happening in laboratories and on stock exchanges. The rise of green tech means copper is the new oil, lithium is the new gold, and the Congo, not Texas, might become the next energy kingmaker. And in boardrooms from Beijing to Brussels, executives face a brutal calculus: do you bet billions on dying fossil fuels or risk everything on unproven renewables? The wrong choice could bankrupt nations. So here's what we're unpacking today: how did energy become the ultimate geopolitical weapon? Why is a single pipeline in the Baltic Sea making NATO generals lose sleep? And most crucially, who will dominate the new energy world order when the dust settles? Whether you're an investor, a policy wonk, or just someone who wants to understand the hidden forces shaping tomorrow's headlines, you're about to see the world map in a way you never have before. Over the next 22 minutes, we'll expose Russia's gas blackmail playbook, reveal how China is colonizing energy corridors without firing a shot, and show you why Texas wind farms are more strategically important than most nuclear arsenals. The energy wars have begun, and you're about to get a front row seat to the revolution rewriting the rules of global power. Buckle up. About the author. Daniel Yergin isn't just an energy expert, he's the man who defined how the world understands power, both in the ground and on the global stage. A Pulitzer Prize winner for his landmark book The Prize, Yergin has spent over 40 years decoding the hidden forces behind oil shocks, gas wars, and the rise of renewables. As vice chairman of S&P Global and founder of Cambridge Energy Research Associates, he's advised presidents, CEOs, and policymakers while turning complex energy geopolitics into gripping narratives. His work doesn't just explain the world, it shapes how nations and industries navigate it. When Yergin speaks, energy markets listen. Chapter 1: How a shoeshine boy beat OPEC, the secret history of fracking, and how it changed the world. Picture America in the 1930s, smokestacks stand idle, bread lines stretch for blocks, and a young George Mitchell, son of a struggling Greek immigrant, wipes the last bit of polish from a customer's shoes. Little did he know, his hands would one day crack open the earth itself. This Depression-era kid, forged in hardship, would grow up to pioneer hydraulic fracturing, the technology that rewrote the rules of global energy. But his journey wasn't just about shale, it was a 50-year David versus Goliath battle against geology, skeptics, and the entire oil establishment. For decades, geologists knew shale rock held oceans of trapped gas, but extracting it? Like trying to drink honey through a straw. While coal seems surrendered easily, shale was a fortress. Mitchell's eureka moment came when he combined horizontal drilling with high-pressure fracking fluid, essentially creating underground lightning to fracture the rock. But early attempts were clunky and costly. By the 2000s, Washington had all but given up, drafting plans to import gas from Qatar. Then, everything changed. Suddenly Pennsylvania's Marcellus Shale roared to life. Texas's Barnett Formation became a gold rush. Then, plot twist, the same technique worked for oil, turning North Dakota's Bakken into a Kuwait on the prairie. Factory electricity prices in America plummeted to half of Europe's, reviving Rust Belt towns. But with prosperity came protest, the Keystone XL pipeline wars, Standing Rock's water protectors, and a nation divided over fracking's environmental toll. The revolution had a dark side. Then came the real shockwave. America outproduced Saudi Arabia and Russia. Moscow's gas stranglehold on Europe frayed as U.S. tankers docked in Poland. Saudi Arabia panicked, flooding markets to bankrupt shale drillers, only to accidentally cripple Iran and Venezuela instead. The lesson? Energy isn't just about watts and barrels, it's about who writes the rules of the 21st century. Chapter 2: Putin's Pipeline Wars, How Gas Became Russia's Secret Weapon, and Why It's Failing. The 20th century saw Russia's fortunes rise and fall like a Siberian tide, from the iron grip of Soviet might to the chaotic collapse of the 1990s, from the rubble of post-communism to Putin's calculated resurgence. Yet through every upheaval, one constant remained: the subterranean oceans of natural gas that would become Moscow's most potent weapon in the 21st century. Nowhere was this more evident than in Russia's gas wars with Ukraine. When Gazprom, the Kremlin's energy behemoth controlling the world's largest reserves, flipped the switch in 2006 and 2009, cutting supplies over payment disputes, it wasn't just Kyiv that shivered. Europe gasped as it realized nearly 80% of its Russian gas flowed through Ukrainian pipelines, exposing the continent's energy Achilles heel. Enter Nord Stream, Putin's masterstroke. By 2011, Russia was tunneling beneath the Baltic Sea, bypassing troublesome neighbors to pump gas directly into Germany's industrial heartland. The move split Europe. Western capitals saw pragmatic energy security, while Eastern voices warned of creeping dependence. The stage was set for an energy Cold War. As the EU scrambled to diversify with renewables and interconnections, Russia doubled down. In 2013, Moscow dangled cheap gas to derail Ukraine's EU ambitions. By 2015, Nord Stream 2 became Europe's most divisive project. Germany's chancellor hailed it as economic pragmatism, even as Poland's prime minister branded it a Molotov cocktail for European unity. But by 2020, the chessboard was shifting beneath Moscow's feet. America's shale revolution offered Europe alternatives, China's insatiable demand pulled Russian tankers eastward, and the EU's Green Deal threatened to render Gazprom's pipelines obsolete. The Kremlin responded with new Asian energy corridors, proving an eternal truth: in the high-stakes game of energy geopolitics, even the mightiest reserves mean nothing without control of both the taps and the markets that crave their flow. Chapter 3: China's Energy Trap, How the World's Factory is Fighting for Survival, and Winning. Today's world economy runs on a simple equation: two nations, China and America, control 40% of global GDP and half the planet's military might. But beneath China's gleaming skyscrapers and humming factories lies an existential weakness: its voracious energy appetite. Like a dragon guarding its hoard, Beijing must secure fuel for its economic miracle, and it's playing 4D chess to do it. Every tanker carrying Middle Eastern oil to Chinese refineries must run a gauntlet, the contested waters of the South China Sea, where 1/3 of global gas shipments transit. Here, Beijing's sweeping territorial claims collide with international law and neighboring states' rights, turning coral reefs into military outposts and fishing boats into naval proxies. The 1981 exploration standoff was just the opening act in this high-stakes drama. China's nightmare scenario has a name: the Malacca Dilemma. That narrow strait, barely 2 miles wide at points, funnels 80% of China's oil imports. A single blockade could strangle the world's factory. No wonder Chinese strategists lose sleep over this vulnerability, especially as their oil consumption has exploded 250% since joining the WTO. Enter the Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing's trillion-dollar masterstroke. Those gleaming Pakistani pipelines? They bypass Malacca, the Greek port of Piraeus, a European energy gateway. From Central Asian gas fields to African oil terminals, China isn't just building infrastructure, it's constructing an immune system against energy shocks. But the real genius lies in China's dual play. Even as it locks down fossil fuels, it's racing to lead the renewable revolution. While Western nations debate climate policy, Chinese factories churn out solar panels and battery cells. The message is clear: whoever controls the energy future controls the 21st century, and China intends to write that future itself. Chapter 4: How Oil Created the Middle East, and Why It's All About to Change. The year is 1916. In a smoke-filled London room, British and French diplomats redraw the map of the collapsing Ottoman Empire, not with pens, but with oil derricks. The infamous Sykes-Picot lines weren't just political boundaries, they were the birth certificates of petrostates. Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Iran, these artificial nations would rise or fall based on the black gold beneath their sands, launching a century where geopolitics meant one thing: control the oil, control the world. Enter the ultimate oil rivalry: Saudi Arabia's desert kingdom versus Iran's revolutionary theocracy. When the Shah fell in 1979, Washington's nightmare came true. An anti-American regime now controlled the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical oil choke point. What followed was an energy war fought with tanker attacks and scorched oil fields, proving that in the Middle East, pipelines bled as violently as battlefields. Then came the ultimate escalation: Iran's nuclear program. The West responded with an economic neutron bomb, oil sanctions that cratered Iran's exports by 60%. But here's the twist: America could only play this card because its shale boom created a global oil cushion. The 2015 nuclear deal became a temporary truce in this high-stakes game, until Trump's sanctions reboot sent Tehran scrambling to build its axis of resistance through Iraqi oil fields. The oil price crash of 2014 hit like a financial tsunami. Riyadh watched helplessly as shale drillers from Texas outmaneuvered OPEC's production cuts. For the first time, the petrostates faced an existential question: what happens when oil stops being a weapon and becomes a liability? The answer came in 2016. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 wasn't just an economic plan, it was a survival manifesto. By 2020, the once unthinkable was unfolding. The UAE built the world's largest solar plant while Saudi princes invested in AI startups. The message was clear: the Middle East knows its oil dominance has an expiration date. As renewable energy and shale revolution rewrite the rules, the region's powers face their greatest challenge since Sykes-Picot, reinventing their civilizations before the world stops buying what made them rich. Chapter 5: Why Your Next Car Will Change the World, and Big Oil is Terrified. First we thought the horse was here to stay, then came the Model T, now we assume gasoline is forever. But the electric jolt shaking the auto industry says otherwise. This seismic shift in how we move is doing more than changing cars, it's upending the entire global energy order. When Tesla rolled out its Roadster in 2008, Detroit scoffed. Today, that laughter has turned to panic as lithium-ion batteries, the new oil, have seen costs plummet 90% while performance soars. As one industry insider put it, we're not just switching fuels, we're replacing the entire energy supply chain beneath the hood. Government incentives from Oslo to Shanghai have turbocharged adoption, though range anxiety and charging deserts remain roadblocks. The real disruption came from an unlikely source: a 2004 desert race sponsored by DARPA that birthed the self-driving revolution. Now Waymo's robotaxis navigate San Francisco while Uber rewrites the very concept of car ownership. The future isn't about selling vehicles, observes a Lyft executive, it's about selling mobility as a service, like Netflix for transportation. The Dieselgate scandal became Volkswagen's $86 billion wake-up call. The auto giant now vows to out-Tesla Tesla. GM is sunsetting gas engines while Ford bets big on both EVs and autonomy. Even oil titans feel the tremors. BP stations now feature charging ports where pumps once stood alone. As one Shell strategist admits, we're not an oil company anymore, we're an energy transition company with an oil legacy. The implications are staggering. Lithium-rich Chile and cobalt-heavy Congo may become the new Saudi Arabias. Meanwhile, OPEC nations face their Kodak moment. Will they adapt or become fossils of the fossil fuel era? Though petroleum still powers 90% of transport, the writing is on the garage wall: the transportation revolution isn't coming, it's already left the dealership. Chapter 6: How the Climate Crisis is Creating New World Superpowers. Hint: it's not who you think. The same fossil fuels that built our modern world are now its greatest threat, responsible for 80% of the emissions choking our planet, warns a UN climate scientist. But beneath this crisis lies an extraordinary opportunity: the chance to rewrite the rules of global power in the 21st century. When 196 nations inked the Paris Agreement in 2015, it wasn't just a climate deal, it was the starting gun for history's greatest energy race. Carbon pricing became the new global currency. with China launching the world's largest emissions trading scheme while Canada taxed pollution at the pump. We're witnessing the most profound economic transformation since the Industrial Revolution, observes a World Bank energy expert. Atomic energy presents a paradox, carbon-free power with a PR problem. After Fukushima's meltdown, Germany vowed to abandon nuclear while France doubled down. As one engineer quips, nuclear is like a fire-breathing dragon, incredibly powerful if you can tame it, but everyone remembers when you couldn't. Here's where the plot twists: wind and solar have become disruptors. Prices plunged 70 to 90% in a decade, turning energy markets upside down. Germany now runs on 50% renewable power some days, while Morocco's desert solar farms could one day light up Europe. But the intermittency challenge remains, as a Texas grid operator learned during 2021's winter blackout. You can't control the weather, but you'd better plan for when it turns against you. Enter the game changers: 3D printing slashing factory emissions, and carbon capture tech trying to give fossils a second life. Norway's Northern Lights project now buries CO2 onto the North Sea, a modern-day alchemy turning pollution into stone. CCS is either the ultimate climate lifeline or the most expensive placebo, debates a Stanford researcher. The implications are tectonic. Nations are jockeying for position. China commands solar panel production, Norway stockpiles hydropower, and Saudi Arabia, yes, the oil kingdom, is building the world's largest green hydrogen plant. The message is clear: the next energy superpowers won't be crowned by what's under their soil, but by what's in their labs and policies. In summary, the book The New Map: How Energy is Rewriting World Power, and What It Means for You, delves deep into the 21st century power dynamics. The 21st century isn't just changing, it's being redrawn. In The New Map, Pulitzer Prize-winning energy expert Daniel Yergin reveals how the collisions of oil, technology, and geopolitics are reshaping our world. From the shale revolution to climate wars, this is the story of power: who has it, who's losing it, and who's rewriting the rules. Picture this: a Texas wildcatter named George Mitchell spent 17 years cracking the code of fracking, unleashing a tsunami of American oil that topples OPEC's dominance. Energy is the game board upon which geopolitics is played, Yergin writes. Suddenly, the US is the world's top producer, Russia's pipelines lose their stranglehold on Europe, and Saudi Arabia panics, flooding markets to crush rivals, only to accidentally cripple Iran and Venezuela instead. Meanwhile, in Moscow, Vladimir Putin turns natural gas into a weapon. Nord Stream pipelines bypass Ukraine to keep Europe hooked on Russian supply, until US LNG tankers start docking in Poland. Control energy, and you control nations, observes a European diplomat. But the real shock comes when China changes the game entirely. Beijing's rise as the world's factory comes with an Achilles heel: 80% of its oil must squeeze through the Strait of Malacca, a choke point it can't control. So China builds ports from Pakistan to Greece, locks down African oil fields, and launches the Belt and Road Initiative, not just an infrastructure plan, but the largest energy security project in history, Yergin notes. Then comes the twist: the very fossil fuels that built modern civilization now threaten it. As wildfires rage and glaciers melt, the Paris Agreement sparks a green arms race. Germany bets big on wind, China dominates solar panel production, and even Saudi Arabia builds the world's largest green hydrogen plant. We are the first generation to feel climate change, and the last that can stop it, warns a UN scientist. Renewables boom, but the plot thickens: nuclear power stages a comeback, carbon capture projects burgeon, and 3D printing could slash factory emissions. The future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed, quips a Silicon Valley innovator. The question isn't whether we'll transition, but who will profit from the new energy order. Behind the grand strategies lie real people: Texas roughnecks losing jobs to solar farms, Ukrainian villagers caught in pipeline battles, and Congolese miners digging cobalt for EV batteries. Every energy revolution creates winners and casualties, Yergin reminds us. The challenge? Ensuring the transition lifts more than it leaves behind. And so we arrive at today's crossroads, where nations, corporations, and citizens all hold pieces of the new map. Before we part, remember this: if no one told you lately, you are loved, worthy, and capable of greatness. The future isn't just shaped by elites, it's shaped by you, the informed and engaged. Don't forget to like, share with loved ones, and subscribe, because ideas this powerful deserve the widest possible audience. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and stay tuned for another eye-opening review. The world is changing fast, let's understand it together and adapt. Here are 5 critical questions every person should ask now to future-proof themselves, with answers drawn from the new map by Daniel Yergin. 1. How will the energy transition affect my job or industry? Answer. The shift from fossil fuels to renewables and tech-driven solutions is already disrupting sectors. Oil/gas workers, upskill in carbon capture, hydrogen, or offshore wind, as Shell/BP are doing. Manufacturing, automation and 3D printing will reduce labor needs, learn digital design or robotics. Transportation, EV adoption will shrink auto mechanic jobs but create demand for battery technicians. Yergin's insight, every energy revolution creates new winners, be the one who adapts first. Action, audit your industry's exposure to energy changes, pivot to adjacent growth areas. 2. Should I invest in fossil fuels or renewables? Answer. The book reveals a dual reality. Short-term, oil/gas aren't disappearing yet, global demand still grows. Companies like Exxon are betting on carbon capture to extend fossil fuel relevance. Long-term, renewables and critical minerals, lithium, cobalt, are the future. China dominates solar, Tesla and BYD lead EVs. Yergin's data point, renewables accounted for 90% of new power capacity in 2020. Action, diversify, hold legacy energy stocks and ETFs focused on clean tech/minerals. 3. How can I protect myself from energy price shocks? Answer. Geopolitics, Russia-Ukraine wars, Middle East conflicts, still swing oil/gas prices. Homeowners, install solar panels/batteries, Germany's example shows energy independence pays off. Drivers, buy hybrid/EVs if possible, gas price volatility will worsen. Investors, hedge with commodities, gold, energy stocks, during crises. Book example, when Russia cut gas to Europe, households with heat pumps suffered less. 4. Which countries will thrive, or collapse, in the new energy order? Answer. Winners. USA, shale oil plus tech innovation. China, controls renewable supply chains, solar, batteries. Norway/Canada, clean hydropower plus critical minerals. Losers. Petrostates, Venezuela, Iraq, failing to diversify. Coal-dependent regions, West Virginia, Poland. Action, consider career/relocation opportunities in resilient economies. 5. What personal habits must I change for the climate era? Answer. Yergin shows climate policies will force lifestyle shifts. Diet, meat production emits heavily, reduce beef consumption. Transport, use public transit/EVs, avoid gas guzzlers. Home energy, smart thermostats, insulation cut spills, EU mandates are coming. The green transition isn't just policy, it's daily choices. Action, audit your carbon footprint, start with one change, for example, LED bulbs, solar panels. Final wisdom from the new map. History's greatest energy transitions didn't happen overnight, but those who prepared early reaped the rewards. Start today.